Mr. Chairman.
So, you know, some of these things, that you went through in my situations, you know, that's why, you know, back to this, it seems to be one of the best examples. You know, agency's director furnished a forestry commission back whenever I FOI'd the forestry director for emails, and what had happened into this past history, we overspent our budget, we had a shortfall, and then we were directing agencies to use federal money, which is illegal. We had this forestry employee that virtually stepped up and told all this was on. I FOI'd those emails from the governor's office. Those all came out, so if you're saying we're walking through that situation, with the emails, when I forwarded those emails and it had governor staff people on those emails, or it had governor's agency director on any of those emails, what is the convoluted thing of all these people in a copy email that I would, what information would I have gotten, what information would I not?
Senator King, that's a great question. If it was anyone from the governor or her staff to the secretary only, it would be protected. If anyone else was included, it would not be protected. So my guess is every email you requested back then would most likely still be available through FOIA. I don't know what all you FOIA, you could provide that to me and we'll look into it.
That's been a few years ago, that's been 12 years ago, but I would tell you,
Yeah,
I would not have gotten the information. And 34 people, good people that did the right thing for the state of Arkansas, and 40 that stepped up, would have never been vindicated in that situation. You know, we have sexual assault cases that we have to deal with that we get covered up in this situation. There's a lot of different situations in this that is outside the scope, just a little security part. You talked about the phone logs. The phone logs, I'll give you an example. Sometimes, you know, the verbal conversations, you wouldn't get that in a while. But when you get the phone logs, you get the communication, and that allows you to ask another question. We shut that off, you had 17 phone calls between that. What you talking about? And the result was the contract's getting over something. There are so many things that can happen. I mean, we got to think several years ago, I stood up and said it was wrong. This legislature, not the ones that were in at the time, spent $60,000 of taxpayer money to keep the Department of Justice getting legislative records. To me, that was just unbelievable, and outside of Linda Collins, there was nobody else said anything about it. I mean, the past history of this legislature, what we've had with corruption and everything else, agency people, agency directors, to start trying to get outside the scope of what's going on, of the security detail, and open it up, especially with our past history that we've had. I don't know why this is like a tragedy why we're doing it. I mean, the $60,000 of taxpayer money that was spent to keep the feds from getting the records of corrupt legislators conducting bribes. And no one ever knew, outside of Lincoln College, so I missed here, said it. So I don't know why we went outside the scope of this.
I'm going to ask you to ask questions on the bill.
So I asked a question on the phone logs. Why would knowing even the phone logs of a governor and agency director be a problem? I mean, you could evaluate performance if an agency director did or did not do a lot of communication with the governor on certain things, and we couldn't even know the phone logs. That would tell a performance record of it. They only had 2 phone calls and none of it being a problem. Why didn't you have more conversation? Why is the phone logs even being protected? And so much is being protected.
We believe it's appropriate to protect the direct communication between the governor, their staff, and the secretary.
So the situation with Bill Walker a few years ago is going when he hired a debt interpreter that was scored a 0 on the test and sent that FOIA. I mean, we're talking about protecting people. What about the dead people that are going to be covered up? And we're going to be in that situation. We would have had a deaf interpreter in charge of communicating for a deaf person that scored a 0 on it, paid with state tax dollars. This would be covered under that. Would it never came from?
I'm going to be honest, I just felt there's a lot of rambling. I really can't follow almost anything you're saying or the names. I just don't know them. If you can ask me the direct question, I'm happy to answer.
I just gave you a direct situation that was in the news media where FOI recovery is protecting deaf people out there and having a deaf interpreter. And this goes outside the scope of that. Why are we outside of the security detail so much in this thing? If it was in the security detail, that's a part. But if it's outside the scope, why are we outside the scope that includes these other things that I mentioned that protected the people of Arkansas?
again, I'm not familiar at all with whatever the case is you're talking about. I do not know if there was a communication from the governor and the governor's office directly to a secretary that would have been protected or not. Here's what we know. We intend to protect the communications between the governor, their staff, and the secretary only. Anything else? Any other example? I guess, earlier I asked you if you understood, about the forestry stuff. You said you didn't remember any of the emails because it had been too long, and then you said it would have been covered up under this FOIA. So I don't know if you remember or you don't, but like, it only the governor, their staff, and the secretary is protected.
But my question is, why are we outside the security detail? We're outside in areas that were not in the security detail. Why are we outside the security detail?
Because I believe that it's important for our government to work as efficiently as possible, and I believe the free exchange of ideas between the secretary or someone in their direct report is very appropriate, and we want the free exchange of ideas so we can get the best working product for the people of Arkansas.
So how is it in the security detail? The last situation that used that for a while was Secretary of Agriculture West Ward, which gave $48,000 to his friends and money that involved the governor's office that they signed off on. I FOI'd him, and clearly you can see through that what happened, how that money got there. Why? That has nothing to do with the security of the governor's family. Was it wrong for West Ward to give $48,000 to that private entity?
My guess is you're telling me 80% of the story. I've never even heard, this is the first I've ever heard something like that. My guess is it's 80%, and the rest of the story probably is all the story.
It was in legislative council, was brought up, it was clearly debated in the legislative council.
And the legislative council found a very honorable man to be a man of integrity that did the right thing, is my guess.
So, but my question is, why even in the Secretary of Agriculture, that it has nothing to do with the security of the governor's family, which we're all compassionate about, why is this covered in? Why are we throwing such a wide blanket outside of security?
Senator King, you're conflating two different portions of the bill. The security of the governor has nothing to do with whatever conversation or the situations you're discussing about Secretary Ward. So set the security of the governor aside. Whatever situation you're talking about with Secretary Ward, if information was FOIA that came from a director at agriculture or any of the employees at agriculture, that information is still available. What will not be available is information directly between Secretary Ward and the governor's office.
I understand that. My question would be, well, what if the governor's directed that Secretary of Agriculture to? I'm not saying this is the case. I don't think it was. But the Secretary of Agriculture directed the Secretary, you need to send this money somewhere here. We need to know if there was communication, if there was a link. So that would not be done. If the Secretary of Agriculture told if the governor told the Secretary of Agriculture, you send this money here, you send this money here, then that would be done.
The ALC is not losing any powers to perform audits to figure out where and why money is being used.
And the difficulty in performing audits is the past audit shares, the difficulties in trying to find out the questions and stuff. It creates another difficult road that we can't get to in a lot of legislative sessions that I've been successful in the courts getting that you can't get. I mean, with all the corruption that we've had and everything like that, we need more transparency on that. That's just.
Do we have any